Alright, hey guys, welcome to book review number, I don't know if this is 27 or 28, need to get that corrected. Well, anyway, next I'm going to do the book that I just read, Lake with No Name, A True Story of Love and Conflict in Modern China by, by Diane Liang. So there you go. There's a portrait, and if you notice at the bottom, is the famous tank soldier from the Tiananmen Square massacre. And that's actually what this book is primarily about. This woman was born, I want to say, 1969, 1970. No, 1968. Yeah, 1968, because she was 21 at the time of this this thing. And if you're born in 1968 in China, you go through as a child, as a young child, the end of the Cultural Revolution. But also, when you are a university student, particularly if you are a university student in Beijing, particularly if you're a university student going to Beijing University, Beijing Normal University, or one of the other universities in that area, you're going to be around and be part of the larger experience of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Now, as it says in the title, The True Story of Love and Conflict in Modern China, Diane Wing really, Diane Wang, and she only took Diane later, so it's really Liang, really kind of has two opposing points that intersect quite a bit. One is her personal life and her relationship with this man, Dong Yi. The romantic relationship with this young boy Dong Yi. You gotta remember they're in their early 20s at this time period. Reflected against the events of the Tiananmen Square protest and the subsequent Tiananmen Square massacre. Like I said, the book starts out with her, maybe in the first 30 pages, her early life. She lived in, I think she was born in Beijing, but very quickly her family was moved to a work unit in rural Sichuan. She kind of talks about both the minor joys she had there, but as well as the sufferings. And kind of like her complaints that she saw later in life. But then quickly moves on to Beijing. She describes kind of the liberal for a communist country, but liberal attitude that existed during this time period in Beijing. This is before 1989. I think we're looking more like 1986 to the protest movement in 1989. They had like free speech corners on campus. Now, that's relative. You couldn't say anything, but, you could say quite a bit more than you could in other places in China. There were professors that voiced their opinion or their dissent of toward the Communist Party and their policies and potential opening up for democracy. So all this happened, and during this time period, there was a reformer within the government. I'm not going to be able to pull up his name right now. He's very famous. I'm not going to be able to pull it up. That died during this time period. And so with the students who were pro-reform, they actually wanted to hold a memorial service, and that's actually how these protests started, was a memorial service to this man. But the communist government wouldn't recognize these students. They only wanted the people in power to kind of be in memorial to this person. This is primarily in the Grand Hall, was where all the powerful people were. That's sort of like our congressional building, you know, House of Representatives, Senate. That's, I mean, it's not a democracy, but that's where their governmental goings-on go on. And then you had Tiananmen Square, which is sort of like in the United States, the National Lawn. That's like a giant, you know, stone square, very famous, where the students met to give memorial. Well, the students felt that the government was not allowing them proper access. Well, they wanted the closed coffin to go around the square so everyone could view the closed coffin of this fallen leader, this reformer. But the communists wouldn't grant it. So it started out as a memorial. But then because of the policies that this guy that died had, it slowly turned into a protest movement, largely peaceful, I mean almost completely peaceful. Beginning with, I think, just Occupy the Square movements. I'm trying to think, there was something that happened before the hunger strikers. The hunger strikers were sort of like the middle piece. I definitely remember there was a time sort of earlier on that they said 1.5 million people showed up in the square. Now, of course, Liang is documenting all this and kind of talking about how some of her roommates in college, I think it's Lang Chow or in Chin Lee, I think. Yeah, like Chin Lee, are the, I'm going to find it real fast. Yes, I think I got it. Yes, okay, Lu Jiang, who she kind of vaguely knew, was a graduate student, kind of a behind-the-scenes person leading this thing. And then Chai Ling, who was a roommate with her in her first year of college, who she hadn't kept in contact with, but kind of knew and kind of reconnected with during this time period, you know, like 2 or 3 years later, was the commander-in-chief of the Tiananmen Square Student Council, and a woman, one of the leaders in leading these mass groups of students that eventually became the rest of the populace, but definitely started with the students. So she wasn't like a top leader within the movement, but she did protest, and she definitely had connections to people that were. And kind of another person, you know, there were a bunch of them, but another person that was more involved in the protest movement than her was this Dong Yi, who, I think it's Dong Yi, who kind of was a liaison between the professors that I was talking about that were dissidents and the students at the square. And this wasn't kind of revealed to her until very late, or even to its full extent after the events happened and she had moved to the United States. So anyway, she has this romantic relationship with this Dong Yi, but it's sort of a fatalistic romantic relationship, which I think is a good foil for the way the Tiananmen Square massacre happened. It's very idealistic, very, you know, sort of from the heart, genuine, but also kind of, you know, the start of it is all good, but where is kind of the concluding point, and in both the personal relationship and a relationship to this guy, wasn't so great. So anyway, the protests kind of go on, and she talks about the people in her life. She mentions also sort of the, in classical Chinese writing, she is Chinese, she has a very picturesque view of some of the lakes. You know, there's this lake that is on campus that she used to go to meditate, and how it's been there for all times, despite the turmoil among men and women, but among humans, you know, it'll always be kind of a serene spot. She and Dong used to meet there. And, you know, it just covers sort of both her elation at the possibility of a changed China, as well as her disappointment and horror at the events that happened later. You know, she got this Dong Yi gave her a bullet that was like this far, like an inch from hitting him, and that really scared her. Of course, this Dong Yi and her both move out of the country at the end of the book, married to different people. She actually remarries later to a European, but they live in the United States. And he lives in New Jersey as a professor. And sort of the book ends, I think it's like 10 years after the Tiananmen Square massacre happened. I should say so just about the massacre, just how brutal the soldiers treated the students. Now, I mean, the soldiers certainly, or the government certainly had to do something, because these students were a threat, but it was clearly not engagement. It was clearly overwhelming force that forced these children into it. Hold on a second, Dad. That forced these children into it. So anyway, yeah, it's a good book. Lake with No Name, The True Story and Love and Conflict in Modern China. All right, thanks you guys. Bye.